Good morning. This is the House Appropriations Committee. It is Tuesday, March 17th, 2026. It is 9 a.m. and we are going to hear some updates around the Ethics Commission as it relates to our budget and some language changes that are being proposed. So I'll recognize Chair Lalonde, if you want to come to the table from Chair of House Judiciary to kick us off, please.
Yes, thank you for letting me present this. Martin Lalonde, representative from South Burlington, Chair of the House Judiciary Committee and also Chair of the House Ethics Panel. So this has to do with the request from the Ethics Commission, the State Ethics Commission, and related to the State Code of Ethics. So this was passed a bit ago, but in 2024, there was a bill that passed. It's H 875, Act number 171, which significantly would expand the investigation and enforcement authority of the State Ethics Commission, including the legislature, the judiciary, and the executive branch employees, and including legislators. We changed the due date or the date that would go into effect in a bill last year. I believe it was. Let me make sure I got that right. It's H1 Act number 44 of 2025, which extended the date for the investigation and enforcement authority to September of 27.
To begin
The enforcement authority. So we understand that the Act number 171 of 2024, it created a municipal code of ethics. And it included the Ethics Commission's discretionary authority to provide guidance on municipal ethics. My understanding is they've been unable to do that for lack of resources. And certainly I support their request for somebody to work on the municipal guidelines. However, I don't support at this point having an additional member of the commission to do the investigation and enforcement. And the reason for that is, in my experience now, I believe there needs to be more guidance for what is expected of legislators, of judiciary, of members of the judiciary, because there's a lot of open questions as far as the language that is in the code, the ethics code. And what we've proposed, so I'll just give you an example. So provisions regarding gifts really have a lot of need for some additional guidance in subdivision 6 of 3 VSA section 1203G. That's the gifts provision. That relates to when food or beverages do not violate gift prohibitions. I'm just giving you one example, but one can have food and beverages at an event if the public servant participates in their official capacity. But really, what does participate mean? Does that mean just showing up? Does that mean presenting there? What does that mean? I think we need to have guidance on what that means. And what does it take to be in your official capacity? Does there have to be some approval of somebody in the legislature? So that's another issue. So why this is important is, frankly, well, starting with the judiciary, they don't think that the State Ethics Commission really in any manner should consider whether ethics codes are violated for judicial members, be they judges. They have a process for that. I would say I'm in I think the same thing. I don't think that the legislature should be governed by, or whether we're being ethical or not, should be up to an entity that is really part of the executive branch, that we have an ethics panel that deals with this ourselves. But that's not going to change. I'm not suggesting that changes, but I am suggesting that we need to make sure that we understand how the Ethics Commission is going to apply their rules to our members. I think that's critical if they're going to get to the point where they are able to essentially sanction our individual members. I think that's critical, that we really need to understand how they're interpreting. So that's what this bill seeks to do. It also, because we're asking for guidelines, it would push off the the effective date to July of 2028
For enforcement.
for investigations, hearings, and enforcement. Those three things go together. And the reason we're bringing it to the Appropriations Committee is essentially we think that that needs to be done as a prerequisite for funding these additional resources for them to do those investigations, hearings, and enforcement. I think that's, yeah.
Tom?
So thank you for that. Just curious, where does the Ethics Commission feel on this? Was this a conversation that you had with them in terms of airing out these concerns that you had in terms of making the language better or more focused, and this timeline that you're proposing?
We have not done that yet. And this kind of has come up fairly recently as far as understanding some of these issues that some of our concerns have been raised. We are planning on that and definitely will be talking to them about where we think they need to provide additional guidance.
And just the history of the Ethics Commission has always been, we can only do what you tell us to do. And they feel that they've been hamstrung. And just,
right.
It sounds like this is the time that we need to figure out with the existing commission, what's the best way to move forward. That's a personal opinion, but I'm just curious, like, is that where your conversation started?
So we will definitely have that conversation with them. And I mean, from the panel's perspective, and I really can't get into too much else on that. So.
And one of the reasons for the enforcement to be delayed is that there's actually nobody on staff who's a lawyer, who can do any enforcement or the investigation part. So to have that start before there's actually anybody who's qualified to do the work, before we've paid for a position to do that, doesn't make any sense. We don't have, the executive director is not, it's half-time or part-time, and he's not a member of the Vermont Bar. Is that right?
That's correct. Not a member.
Not a member of the Vermont Bar. Okay, so I've Wayne and then Marty.
So there's a position there's an asker position that's right for an attorney. Are you?
Yes.
You're still asking in this whatever for a position, for attorney position.
For the municipal guidelines that, for their work on municipal.
I'm curious, I think there's room for, obviously, it would take an attorney in order to look at these things and come up with, something that's going to fly in terms of going before the judiciary. Does it need to be a permanent position, or is it something that could be contracted?
I don't know the answer to that.
Or.
Because he's asking for this to investigate, what needs to be done in terms of setting this all up. So,
Oh, the judiciary. So there are a couple of parts of this in the Ethics Commission's request. They had asked for two positions. One, a general counsel, and one is the other attorney to be able to do municipal requests, which, every community has been calling. That's why they had to stop. So what we've been contemplating here so far has just been the municipal attorney for the Ethics Commission.
but we're not talking about running with the committee yet, right? You get a date that's going to go out farther, right?
Right.
So
Right,
really
the
what we're trying to do is get up the protocol, the procedures, and have everybody be on the right page in terms of knowing what their liabilities are and how they need to conduct themselves, right?
Right.
And so that needs to be done, but that doesn't seem like it would require a position that would be in eternity. That's a limited thing. So I'm asking, might that be done as a contract?
I think that's a different position than what they're talking about in this.
Yeah, I mean, they probably have the staff and the board to be able to do the guidelines. But I think then they need somebody when it's time for them to exercise their investigation and enforcement authority. That's when they need that position, which shouldn't be until 2028.
Right. So that's why I was asking the timing of this and what the task is that the person being hired would be doing, and whether or not it's appropriate to hire full-time staff.
Different position entirely.
Yeah, it wouldn't be dealing with what I'm talking about, just it would be dealing with the municipal side of what the commission deals with.
So who's gonna deal with what you're talking about, the commission itself?
Yeah, it'd be the commission, it would be the executive director, I believe is and that would be to get the guidelines together, but to implement those, they would need to have additional sources.
They have staff and board sufficient to do the work before they would hire an attorney who would actually do the enforcement and investigation.
But they have the skill set necessary on that commission to do this.
I think so, yes. Because, so just to be clear, we ask for advice from them, our panel, and they do give us advice. And we do appreciate their expertise, but it's different, like asking for advice after there's an issue versus laying that out so we don't have people having an issue. And that's what we're really after is that guideline so people know what they're supposed to do and not do.
So Marty and then Lynn.
So that's where I was confused. The request came from the Ethics Commission, is that not correct? When they were in here, they came and they asked for these two positions.
Correct. Yes. They did ask for 2 positions.
Okay, and Representative Lalonde is telling us that he believes one of those positions is not necessary now because you believe the commission itself should develop some more robust guidelines to help to flesh out all of those kind of general things we have in the ethics so that eventually somebody would have a good background to work from if they were actually going to investigate or enforce. Okay, I'm just surprised that the commission itself came to us and asked for that investigative position without having either discussed it with the Ethics Commission or the Ethics Commission having
That was
said,
the
okay, that's a good idea.
That was the ethics commission that came to us.
Right, I'm sorry, but the panel, the.
Yeah, and I'm, when I understood that they had asked that, I'm raising a red flag essentially and saying, I think this is what needs to be done before a co-equal branch of government subjects ourselves to this other branches, looking at whether we've complied with ethics or not. Just my experience on the panel gives me concern that we really need to have that guidance in advance for individuals in the legislature and the judiciary if the judiciary.
They sort of did it in not the right order, and we're trying to fix the order, I think, of the way it
Right.
ought to be happening.
But we have a panel and a commission, correct? Or am I confusing that?
Yeah.
So we have a panel, the legislature has a panel. The commission is separate
Right,
and really part of the executive branch, so.
okay. So the commission did not necessarily discuss that option with the panel before the commission came to us and asked us.
And I don't imagine that they agree with my position, frankly. So. Although we will be having discussions, it just, for various reasons, wasn't appropriate to do that quite yet. I mean, timing of things and what we do on the panel versus what we're doing in appropriations is just has made that where we haven't been able to do that.
So like Lynn and then John.
Yeah, I was equally confused because it starts off here talking about municipal code of ethics.
Right.
And then you started talking about all of the other 3 branches of government, but it's a different topic.
Right.
2 different things. Okay. So you want to hire an attorney for the municipal ethics.
Right.
Which I understand is like a beehive. It's just all kinds of municipalities don't like it. They don't feel that it's fair. They don't understand how it works for them. It's different for them than it is. They have the potential for an incredible amount of personalities and attacks on their conflict of interest issues or appropriate. I mean, small town, it's just could get really difficult. But you're not really, you don't really, and the dates, when the dates are extended, is that extended to everybody or is
We
that?
should
just-
probably have Mike come and talk about what's in the language in the bill. Arnett, you can stay with there and have O'Grady come to. You want to
I don't get any of the questions and make my.
There's 2 separate things that are happening.
There's-
And I know there are municipalities who don't like it, but that's what the law is and they need to have it. And so the idea is that somebody on the ethics commission in the ethics staff to be there to help municipalities. This is why we did hear from the Ethics Commission. They had to stop after a few months, even accepting requests on ethics complaints because they didn't have the capacity to do it. So let's try to, there's two separate things. So the ethics for municipalities is one thing. And that's a position that can be done now. And then there's all this other stuff, and that's really what.
3 branches of government.
Right. So now we're going to take away municipalities and just talk about this.
Well, the question I have is on the extension of the dates to 2028. Does that apply to both the municipal and the 3 branches of government, or is that just for the 3 branches of government?
It applies to their enforcement authority
For all of them?
for all.
Okay.
But the guidance as an attorney is different. Like,
Yes.
Lynn was mean to me on the select board meeting, and what's my right,
Yes. But the dates that they're extending it to is for everybody.
For enforcement, just for enforcement.
That's fine.
So John had a question too, and then I'm going to turn it over to
I'm
him.
gonna go ahead and just let Michael go.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure my question will get answered.
Okay, great.
So let's reset the context.
Thank you.
So there's a state code of ethics and there's a municipal code of ethics. And the State Ethics Commission is responsible for providing advice and guidance on both. And ultimately, they're going to be providing enforcement of the state code of ethics. Now, they came in, they have been looking for resources for a couple of years. They gave you a letter. They're looking right now for 2 positions. One, an attorney to provide advice and guidance on municipal code of ethics, and one, a general counsel to effectively staff enforcement and investigation going forward for the state code of ethics. Now, you heard Representative Lalonde and his position on why the municipal attorney should go forward now, because they have suspended their municipal services. It's right there on their website that they don't have the resources to provide the advice and guidance that is required under the municipal code of ethics for them to do. And this would give them the resources for that, and so they would no longer be suspended in doing that. But when you look at other state ethics commissions around the country, their code is similar to Vermont's, but they have resources that are significant that explain the code and how the code is applied and what a public servant needs to do in order to either avoid accusation or conflict or misuse. Vermont currently doesn't have that. Consequently, when there's a complaint, the commission effectively gets to determine what it wants to determine. And so there isn't a standard that's available to that public servant subject to the state ethics code for them to understand how to monitor and moderate their behavior. For example, New York has what they call a plain language ethics handbook that lists out all of the different provisions of the code, how that they should apply, what a public servant should think about with regard to each of those provisions. And it's very helpful and it's very accessible. It's not something that is written in legalese. It's not, overly long. I think it's only about 40 to 50 pages long. And it's helpful. And
It's really about clarity, isn't it?
clarity, right?
That's what this is about.
Transparency, expectations, what you need to do in order to maintain your compliance with the state ethics code. So that's what this language is intended to do. It is intended to give the State Ethics Commission a municipal attorney to help with providing guidance and advisory information to municipalities that do have a municipal code of ethics that they need to comply with, and they do need assistance. As was said, it is a beehive because there are 250 plus towns with varying degrees of personalities. And so having someone to provide guidance on those issues, I think, would be very helpful. And that's what the first section of the language in front of you does. Talking to Grady about how to draft this language. The position is not created in this language because he said that you will create it. You have a tool for when you decide how.
It would be an E100 if we do it, yeah.
Right. And the actual amount will be plugged in another one of your tools. So it starts with of the money that's appropriated in B 136.1, which you don't have that language yet. That's the tool that's going to do that. It says 125,000 shall be used by the State Ethics Commission to fund an attorney for purpose of receiving, reviewing, or referring complaints of violations of the Municipal Code of Ethics under 3 VSA 1222. Now, that 125,000, that's probably a little low because the Ethics Commission asked for 140 effectively for this position. But I thought 125 is your default position. So I put in 125. The commission might look for more for that position. So then you go to the amendment of two acts, the 2024 act that created the Ethics Commission, and then Act 44 from last year, which pushed out those dates and changed some of the way that complaints are referred to the judiciary and to the General Assembly. It also puts the commission on a fiscal year schedule, because right now they're in September. And I don't know why it was decided to be September, but it pushes it out to July of 2028 for their enforcement. You'll see their rulemaking procedure, which relates to their enforcement on page 1, lines 12 to 14 will be pushed out to 2028. Their powers and their expansion of powers on lines 17 and 18 will be pushed out to July of 2028. On page 2, all of their authority regarding investigations, hearings, warnings, reprimands, recommended actions, etc. That gets pushed out to 2028 as well. And then in Act 44 from last year, there was language regarding when these future provisions would go into effect. And you're pushing that out to July 1, 2028 on line 18 and line 19. And then you get on page 3, really on page 4, the directive about guidance. I mean, the requirement that the executive director of the commission publish an ethics handbook that provides a plain language guide to a person who is or will be subject to the provisions of the chapter regarding application of the state code of ethics. It will include information about the standards of conduct. Like, these are the things that you are subject to as public servants, that I am subject to as a public servant. What is your standard of conduct? What constitutes a conflict of interest? How to determine what's an acceptable gift? What constitutes misuse of position, information, or government resources? What constitutes an unauthorized commitment by a person subject to the requirements of the chapter? What employment restrictions exist? And then the legal authority relied on by the commission in establishing those standards, establishing that guidance. Because again, when you look at state ethics commissions across the country, they are varying authorities, there are varying opinions. Some commissions say that they don't regulate foreign gifts because it doesn't relate, in their opinion, to legitimate government interests. So it's not something that falls underneath their ethics authority. But others are very significantly involved in regulating foreign gifts. And so where do you fall on that? How is the commission going to regulate that when you have that kind of vast differences in some of these ethical provisions and how they can be interpreted and applied? And I think that's fair to the public servant. It's fair to know how your ethics commission is going to apply the law to you.
Well, it's protection for us. I see it as protection. You know, if I'm going out and meeting an advocate, do I buy my own coffee? Is it okay if they buy me a coffee? Is that different than if they buy me drinks and dinner? Is that, you know, so all of that, I don't even know where I'd go for that, because I don't know if we have a lot.
There isn't.
Right. And so when it gets fuzzy, we can also be accused of things that are wrong because somebody else decides they're wrong. One person does, and yet we have nothing we can point to that says I'm acting within the ethics of.
You can only point to the state code of ethics, which is subject to interpretation.
Right.
varying.
Right, exactly. Exactly. So Wayne?
So like New York, for example, does they have a single ethics commission
Yes,
that deals with everything?
yes.
And lots of attorneys and lots of cases, or not so much?
I know they have a lot, they issue a lot of advisory opinions and they meet often. I couldn't quantify it for you. Don't know the
Curious
specifics.
whether or not they have a large staff to deal with it. It's a huge state compared to Vermont.
They do have staff. And I know this because I went to school with somebody who's chair of it for a while. So I know that they have their own attorneys. I know that other state commissions have their own attorneys. And I would be hesitant to recommend that you contract it out, just because when we've had to contract out this work, it's expensive. And with the number of complaints that could arise and the responses necessary, I think you would exceed $125,000 fairly quick.
We did learn from, what was the other one? Oh, the federal mediator, because the federal government got rid of the mediator. We talked about, you asked that same question there, $450 an hour. That would kill a school. I mean, it's a lot cheaper to have your own attorney.
We get a discounted rate, and it's still in the $300 to $400 range for the partners that are working.
Plus we have some consistency.
Yeah, I mean, usually there's 2 or 3 attorneys that work on the things that we've contracted out.
Other questions about this? Are we clear on what, did your question get answered?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So requiring some work to be done before there's actually somebody hired, so they have the information. So they can start to work and not have to create it as an attorney.
And I do want to leave you with that question about how much should be appropriated for the municipal attorney, because it is what the number in the language is less than what the commission requested, but it is what I thought was your default employee amount.
I thought I had some other number from them, but I have to go find that piece of paper. I mean, I think that was the number we may have even had from them, not sure. But we can look at the number. So there's 2 parts to this. Thank you very much, Mike. One is about, do we want to fund the position? And the second is, do we want to do the effective dates and the enforcement and having an ethics handbook before? So I sort of see it as, we put it all in one piece, which is great, but we'll.
Yeah, you can, and you have to add the position and the actual
Right.
appropriation
Right.
when it comes to that.
Lynn?
Yeah, one last question here on section E, 136.5. We have dates here. Should we move up those dates to 2028? January 20?
Some of those dates are when they're just providing advisory opinions or guidance, and there's really no.
The handbook,
One is the handbook, the other is.
should that be 2028?
Good question. January of 2027 might be
I think that's.
ambitious,
Yeah. Because the rest of it is July of 2028.
right?
So I'm looking at Rep. Lalonde, if we did January of 28 for the ethics handbook, is that reasonable?
Yeah, I think that.
Because otherwise it's like 6 months that they're gonna have to do it, and that seems too fast.
The same holds true for the last one, which is December 15th to 26th to get the report to the committees.
Yeah.
There's
Push
4.
that out to 2027.
And we'll still have the set 2028 session. And it can determine.
Right. So, but if we have the draft copy of the handbook, right, should be December of 2027, right? So those are 2 date changes.
Okay.
You don't mind doing that?
Not at all.
Sending it over, then we'll have it for our language and budget folio.
Great.
Any other questions that Marty?
Well, I'm just wondering if you want more time between the draft of December of 27 and the full thing of January of 28. how much time between the draft and the final copy.
I wanted the draft to come to you as the General Assembly to review. So if you wanted to take action, you would have opportunity.
Well, so the draft. Right, I see what Marty's saying. The draft is coming December of 2027.
Mhm.
And then,
But the full thing
but the
is
full
only
thing is a month
3
later, January 15.
Right.
And if we aren't in session until January 7th, we have a week before they have the final one.
Should I push the final back to say March or April?
Maybe, maybe March 1st?
Okay.
Does that seem like good time?
Yeah.
Yeah, good catch.
All right.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for coming. We appreciate it. Okay.
40 to go.
Yeah. Yeah. So we are ahead of schedule. Can we get H410 in 15 minutes? Can we see if they can come?
Yeah.
I want us to have as much time as possible to talk about other things. Right, so we'll go off live, but don't go far because we may be back on in 15 minutes.
So that's no number on that. That means it hasn't been presented yet.